that we've talked about the different types of radiation, particles, alpha, beta, gamma, we're going to do an experiment where we're going to try to identify what our unknown radiation source would be. So we're going to be using a web application to test this experiment. So you click the link and it takes you to this website. The first thing we have to do is account for the background radiation. Remember, background radiation is just air, building materials, and stuff that would give off some radioactive material, or radioactive particles. So we're going to find how much background radiation our experiment is going to account for. So we're going to set our radiation source to background, our type of barrier to none, and the duration of our count to 10 seconds. So we select background radiation, barrier none, and our duration is 10 seconds. Then we want to hit start count. And you'll see down here that the Geiger counter will run for 10 seconds. This is telling us our radiation count here. Now it's going to be a little bit different for everyone because the experiment does it randomly. So here we have our background radiation of 6. So I'm going to record that in our line here. So next we're going to see how an alpha particle is going to be affected by our Geiger counter. So we want to begin with the alpha source selected. So I'm going to change my radiation source now to alpha. And I'm going to set up my barrier. So first I'm going to do a barrier of nothing. And again, I'm going to do it for 10-second count. So I hit start count, and now you'll see my count will increase. It will stop after 10 seconds, and I'm going to record whatever number it gives me. Now remember, everyone's is going to be random, so it's not all going to be the same. So here's my count, 257. So I'm going to record that here. And now to get this last column, I'm going to subtract my background count. So for all of them, I'm going to subtract 6 from each of them. So I had 251. Okay, now I'm going to add a barrier and see how that affects the account. So I'm going to put one piece of cardboard. So I'm going to select type of barrier as cardboard, and then a number of barriers for 1. And then I'm going to hit start count again, and it's going to count. And you'll notice it decreases it significantly. And so we'll let it run for 10 seconds. And now I'm going to record my count, 103. And again, I'm going to subtract from that. So I would have 97 for my count. Now I'm going to repeat this same process, adding a couple more barriers, changing the type of barrier, so plastic and lead, and seeing how that affects the count. The only thing you have to be aware of is that in some cases your alpha count may be less than the background due to kind of random variation. So if this happens, you simply want to write the number as 0 and don't write a negative number. So then you're going to repeat the same procedure, except now you're going to do a beta source. And again, subtracting that 6 in my case, so whatever your background count is. Then you're going to repeat it with a gamma source. And then finally you're going to select an unknown source. And so now that you know how each of these types of radiation, gamma, beta, alpha, are affected by these barriers, you're going to do an unknown source. And so you're going to change the radiation now source to unknown. And now you're going to experiment with the different barriers. And you need to do just as many as necessary to figure out what your source is and have some evidence to kind of support that. So you don't have to do all 10 lines. So do as many as you need to figure out what your source is. So then down below, you're going to answer some questions. What type of source was your unknown? Was it alpha, beta, or gamma? And then give some evidence from up above that you collected to support that conclusion. And then you have questions 5 and 6 to answer about more radiation.